Hello everyone, this is Jan coming to you in the final episode of the Back to Myself series. If you are interested in hearing the blow-by-blow from episode 1 up until now, I invite you to go back and watch from the beginning. You'll get a lot more details about what happened to me and what I did with it. But for now, here's the summary. Over the past several weeks, I've been sharing my experience living with severe neck and shoulder pain, navigating the diagnostic process, seeking second opinions, preparing for surgery, and recovering from ACDF surgery at the C6 and 7 level, which took place on May 23rd, 2025. Today, I am 8 weeks post-surgery, and I'm happy to say I'm continuing to do very well. I have no neck or shoulder pain, and I rarely need Tylenol. And when I take it, it's not for neck and shoulder pain, it's for pain in my foot or in my hip or in my knee, other things that are falling apart. The incision site is visible, you can see here, and I have been treating it with silicone patches, which are helping to soften the scar and allow it to blend into the natural folds of my neck, which I have plenty of. To see the post-op X-ray of my spine, here it is. You can see the screws that are lodged in my vertebrae at C6 and 7 from the side. And then here's the view from the back. You see those two brackets that look like figure eights. That's where the vertebrae and the disc are fastened together. I've been working hard in physical therapy. When I first started, my therapist tested the reflexes in both arms. My right arm, the unaffected side, responded normally to all the tappings, but when she tested my left tricep, the side affected by nerve impingement, there was no reflex at all. That muscle was dead as a doornail. Now, 2.5 weeks later or so, with a lot of exercise, I'm proud to report that I've regained a good amount of strength in that part of my arm. And while the reflex still hasn't returned 8 weeks later, my therapist remains optimistic that it will in time. In this final episode, I want to answer the most common question people ask me. How did this happen? The short answer is there was no single event that clearly caused it. I didn't fall or lift anything heavy, but I've had a long history of vulnerability on the left side of my neck, upper back, and shoulder, pain that's often aggravated by travel. I don't know if that's related. It sure feels like it to me. Over the years, I've learned to manage that pain with heat patches and supportive cushions on planes and the occasional Tylenol or meloxicam or Advil. But during a trip to Amsterdam, I noticed the pain intensifying to the point where it felt like a knife in my back and an iron grip on both shoulders. That was new, and that's what sent me to the ER. While there was no obvious injury, the cumulative stress of travel had clearly taken a toll. In the first quarter of this year, I took 6 plane trips. Would this have happened if I hadn't taken that last trip? Who knows? I wonder about that. But here's what I have learned. Here's a nice representation of a cervical disc, which has a gelatinous center surrounded by a fibrous ring. This disc is nestled between 2 vertebrae. In this illustration, the disc has thinned out over time due to aging. The fibrous ring can develop cracks due to aging and stress. I had both. The gelatinous substance floods into the spinal canal, impinging on the spinal cord. I am pretty sure this is what happened to me. Now, here are some MRI images. First comes an image of a healthy spine viewed from the right side of the body, and you can see how beautifully curved and neatly stacked the vertebrae are. Here is the MRI of my spine viewed from the left. You can see that they don't look stacked very neatly, and there's a place where things look especially broken down near the bottom there. I also have a strong family history of arthritis. My 95-year-old mother, who passed away last year, was nearly bent forward at a 90-degree angle at the end of her life due to osteoporosis. My father had a knee replacement in his 80s. Both had bony and painful joints and bunions, and I'm starting to see those patterns in myself. Even so, I never saw this coming. Neither parent had had neck issues like mine, so I had no reason to think that was going to be a problem for me. There's also an emotional component. From April to September last year was when my mother was dying. I was her caregiver in many ways as she went through multiple hospitalizations, followed by multiple rehab stints and health crises and home care and finally hospice. I lived 10 minutes away, so much of the decision-making, transportation, grocery shopping, and coordination of care fell on me. It was a privilege to be with her, but also a heavy, constant load. When she died, I felt grief and relief in equal measure. I think part of the reason I took all those trips earlier this year was out of this newfound sense of freedom, but it didn't account for what my body had just been through emotionally. The mind and the body are intricately linked, which means that what I was going through emotionally was inextricably related to how my body was reacting. On top of that, my physical and emotional links to my mother's body in its distress and decline were undeniable. These are powerful factors in what was happening to me in the past year. Aging plays a role too. I'm 70 years old. I feel youthful in spirit, but my body has other ideas. Osteoarthritis, hip tendonitis, joint pain, loss of strength and resilience, all things that crept in gradually while I was still expecting myself to keep up the same pace I did 20 years ago. Here are some practical tips if you're facing ACDF surgery. Get a second, maybe even a third opinion. Talking with several providers helped me compare their personalities, their recommendations, and gave me a feeling about how they thought about my condition and what they wanted to do about it. Steroid injections, I want you to know, provided the most dramatic and immediate pain relief for my acute neck and shoulder pain, but they weren't a long-term fix for nerve compression. The surgery was necessary in my case, mainly due to the classic signs of nerve impingement, which were shoulder weakness and a general left arm weakness that wasn't going to resolve through rest or physical therapy or medication. I am grateful for oxycodone early on, and if I had it to do differently, I would have asked for a scopolamine patch at the ready to avoid about 24 to 48 hours of nausea misery. I'm learning this along the way. I pass this on to you to be patient. You need to rest for the first month so that your bones can begin to fuse. And don't rush it. The last thing you want is to disrupt the hardware and have to start over. The most important lesson in all of this is to let your community in. There's a lot of sitting alone, suffering in pain and feeling scared and not knowing what to do. So having people to talk to and knowing that people are praying for you or sending good thoughts really makes a difference. I made this YouTube series because it gave meaning to my experience. Knowing that sharing my story with you might help someone else, that was a big comfort to me. Finally, thank you, my friends, for walking with me on this journey back to myself. I'm grateful you came along with me. I wish you the best of health going forward.